She punched out his number and waited as it rang. "Come on, Nick." The answering machine picked up. "Hello, you've reached the home of Nick Hutchins." The Buick bumped her again, and the tears sprang to her eyes. She punched off the phone and tried to think. "Where are you, Nick? You're supposed to be waiting for me." A message, she thought. He must have left a message. Maybe he'd called to tell her to meet him somewhere else instead. Her hand trembled, making it difficult, but she managed to punch out her own number, then waited for her machine to answer so that she could enter her code and get her messages. "Hello?" It was the voice of a boy. "Who is this?" There was a long pause. "Who do you want?" She turned on her bright lights, looking for a road, any road, that she could turn down in hopes of losing him. "I thought I was calling my own house," she said. "You must have the wrong number." Confused, she punched the end button and followed the road's curve along the edge of the beach. The Buick did the same, right on her bumper. Where were the police? And what number had she just dialed? She punched recall and saw the digital readout. It was her number. So who had answered the phone at her house? Her car jolted again, and she saw the Buick in the lane next to her. He was trying to force her off the road now. She had to get help. He would kill her if she didn't lose him. She pressed send and waited as her own number rang again. This time it rang on and on. The machine, which normally picked up on the fourth ring, never answered. What's going on? The car edged over, pushing her toward a drop-off. She looked in her rearview mirror and saw that no one was behind her. No witnesses, no one to notice if he sent her tumbling over a seawall. She saw a road sign up ahead and quickly breathed a prayer. Then, waiting for just the right moment, she slammed on her brakes until she was behind the Buick and screeched into a left turn, skidding around the corner onto a side street. She stomped on the accelerator and made another turn and another until she was completely out of his reach, hidden by trees. She eased up on the accelerator only slightly, checking her rearview mirror every few seconds. It was more than 15 minutes before she was certain that she had lost him. Only then did she feel that she could safely try to make it home, hoping he hadn't figured out where that was yet. She had chosen to rent the little house out in the woods intentionally. It would be hard for unwelcome guests to find. So far, she'd kept herself insulated from him, but now she knew that interviewing Marlene in her home had been a mistake. Bill Brandon was too smart and too suspicious not to keep close tabs on the sister who had once worked with him. He must have found out about the interview somehow and followed Beth from Marlene's house. So maybe he still didn't know where she lived. Maybe her little house in the woods was still a safe haven. As he hung up the phone, 10-year-old Jimmy Weston kicked himself for being so stupid. But Bill had said he'd call and warn him if she headed home. He scrolled her computer directory for what Bill wanted, but found nothing that looked significant. A few minutes later, he heard tires on the gravel outside the house. Headlights swept through the windows of the darkened house, and the small, red-haired boy froze, wondering why Bill hadn't warned him. He tried to guess which of the side doors she would come in, which door he could safely leave through. The little cocker spaniel at his feet yelped up at him, wanting to play. He shouldn't have given it so much attention when he'd first come in, but he'd never had a dog of his own, and he hadn't expected to find it here. Bill hadn't said anything about it. "Shh," he whispered, trying to quiet it. "I have to go." He heard the car door slam in front of the house. Her keys rattled in the door. It was too late to go out any of the doors. He would have to hide. He looked around frantically, then dashed up the stairs, leaving the fat young puppy yelping after him. Halfway up, he looked back and saw it struggling to climb the first step. He left it behind and hurried up to the woman's loft office, where he'd searched for the papers and tapes Bill wanted. There was a door there next to a closet. He opened it. It was a floored walk-in attic. He slipped in and closed the door quietly, just as he heard the door downstairs closing behind her. Beth ignored her puppy as he whimpered and scratched at the attic door. Instead, she stared down at the answering machine in her loft office. Why was it turned off? She'd left it on. She was sure of it. Maybe the power had flickered and the machine hadn't come back on. Maybe. But that didn't explain the person who had answered the phone when she'd called. Deciding that the cellular company had just mixed her signal with someone else's, she started to turn it back on when she heard a car on the gravel outside. She froze. Keeping her eyes on the door, she dropped the phone back in its cradle, pulled open a drawer in the end table, and grabbed the pistol she kept there. The doorbell rang, and her puppy erupted into a round of high-pitched barks. He's here, she thought, holding the pistol aimed at the door. The bell rang again, and a knock followed. Beth, it's me, Nick. Nick, not Bill. She let out a huge breath of relief and lowered the gun. Feeling dizzy from the sheer terror that had gripped her, she headed for the door and opened it. Nick, you scared me. I didn't know it was you. Where have you been? I tried to call. Nick came in, his brown, slightly wavy hair tousled by the warm wind. Didn't you get my message? What message? On your machine, telling you that I had an emergency and couldn't meet you at my house, that I would just come over here. He frowned as he saw the gun. What's wrong? I just got a little spooked, that's all. Embarrassed, she put the gun back into the drawer and closed it. Did something happen? Did the interview turn out badly? No, it was fine. She shoved her hand through her short, honey-colored hair and looked up the stairs toward the answering machine that had been off when she checked it. It's just a little weird. What is? That you left a message. My machine was off when I got home. Are you sure it was on when you called? Positive. I left a message that the police had just done a drug bust. And there were these 2 boys. Their parents were dealing cocaine. I had to get the children and place them in foster care tonight until we could find some relatives. Her face whitened. You didn't put them in St. Clair Children's Home, did you? No, not SCCH, he said. My supervisor would have, but I put them with a retired couple new to the foster care program. They'll be okay. He paused and studied her for a moment. Beth, you're pale. What is it? She breathed a self-conscious laugh and tried to calm herself. Nothing, really. The interview went great, better than I could have dreamed. She sank down on her couch and covered her face, and Nick sat down next to her. She didn't really know Nick all that well, having met him just a few days ago when she'd called to interview him about his take on the children's home. Her questions had immediately piqued his interest because he'd also had suspicions about the home. So he'd spent a lot of time with Beth since that first meeting, trying to help her put the pieces together. She drew her mind back to the conversation. Marlene was ready to talk, she said. I taped our conversation. It was fascinating. She confirmed everything. Bill Brandon uses some of the kids in his care in a crime ring that breaks into people's homes and businesses and steals things. He has a central warehouse where he stores things until he can sell them, or until his people can sell them. Apparently, there are more people than just Bill and the kids involved. In fact, she said he has someone big running interference for him, like someone on the police force or in government. That's how he's gotten away with it. She didn't know any names or where the stuff is stored, but she said that he uses horrible tactics to force the kids into cooperating. Besides the abuse that you've suspected, he threatens them with harm to their sisters and brothers, their parents if they're living, or he makes them believe that they're as guilty as he is, that they're the ones breaking in, that his hands are clean. So if anyone goes down for the crime, it'll be the kids. And they have no way of knowing otherwise, so they cooperate. Angered, Nick bolted up and paced across the floor, his fatigue evident. He needed to shave, and his light brown hair was tousled as though he hadn't given it a thought all day. His eyes were red, and she wondered if he ever got much sleep. We've got to put him away, Beth. We've got to get those kids out of there. Nick sat slowly down. Does Bill Brandon know that she talked? She was unsure how much to tell him. Yes, I'm pretty sure he does. He, or someone in a dark Buick, was following me most of the way home. What? Chasing me is more like it. It's okay. I made sure I lost him so he couldn't follow me home. My car's got a few dents, though. He hit you? What was he trying to do? Run me off the road, she said, near the seawalls. Beth, this is getting out of hand. He could have killed you. She went to the window, peered out through the blinds. He almost did. I called the police, but it took them forever. By the time they came, I had lost him. Nick went to stand behind her, and she turned around and looked up at him. Beth, how do you know it wasn't a setup? The whole Marlene thing, all her deep confessions, and then her brother chasing you down and trying to kill you.